I would be one of those old. If I was to do what Tori did, I would be one of those.
This thing on?
Yeah. No, you know
Hello?
Plug it in.
Chinese playover movies. He's gonna fight you. You know, and the voices keep going, but it's like just he's gonna fight you.
Chris Bailey's mad dubbing skills.
Yeah. He's gonna dub over. Yeah. I will meet you again at the starting line.
Hello?
All right, everyone, we're back for episode 2 of Deep Stage.
2.
And we are super excited about it. The first one has a lot of success, and we're excited for an episode 2.
Good feedback.
Yeah.
Exciting feedback.
And a lot of exciting people coming down the pipes.
I know, dude. It's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. But to recap, we had a busy past couple weeks.
Yes.
Since the podcast.
Yeah.
How was the track?
Man, the track was fine. Actually, beautiful track, well done. Needs a little bit more facilities, but this was a grand opening. So I think one of the big things that Concho Valley did right was the surface that they put down and the protection of the walls. And you don't find that at a lot of the 8th Mile tracks. So
brand new track, Concho Valley, opened up.
Mm.
You guys did. Who'd you go with? You, Garrett?
Yep, it was Garrett, and that was it. It's just we just rode out into the west on a no prep surface.
Were you guys the only Dodges, or were there other Dodges out there?
That's a good question. I feel like there was another Dodge out there, but maybe an older one.
Yeah.
All I know is I got beat by a Camaro pretty bad.
Really?
But I outweighed it by like 1,200 pounds.
Oh, okay. So Concho Valley had their grand opening.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a day bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, it got rained out. Yeah, so it was supposed to be a night race, and then it turned into an 8 a.m., start at 10 a.m. So all the camera equipment was fried. Like all the GoPros were just, they don't want to work. The drone disconnects, so we got very little footage. We were just barely trying to stay hydrated and not pass out and like all huddled in the trailer. You know the day races, right?
Yeah.
But overall, we had fun. We met some cool people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What about you?
Just worked. We poured the foundation at the shop.
I saw that.
And we're super excited about that. Dug the hole, got everything going.
Yeah.
So we're super excited about that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good time. Now it should go super fast. I think building's going to land next week, and then they'll start putting it all up. So it's been an exciting time.
That's cool. So they're doing a red iron building, right?
Yep. Yep. Hopefully with a pond.
Yeah, we're ready. Just want to get your foundation poured. Want to make sure everything's good before we start shooting grades.
Yeah.
So we'll get out there, dude.
Maybe with a pond and all that.
No, it's going to look great, man.
But episode 2 is going to be a special episode for us. Right?
Very. I think this episode will kind of define what we're doing on the podcast, right? Like we're racers. A lot of what we had on episode 1, it was just us talking shop, right? And I think that was kind of cool for a lot of our viewers. But as we dive deeper into life and business and challenges and successes and things like that, we brought the wives, the big guns on board today. And today we have Marlene Baily, which is Chris's better half.
Your wife.
Yeah.
Andrea.
Yeah.
I think you forgot my name.
And I'm excited about what she is going to expose about you.
I love it, dude. I mean, here's the thing: if I've got something hidden somewhere, I don't think it's hidden. It's probably public information by now. But yeah, I'm anxious to see what you've got. I'm sure Marlene's got some stuff too.
Yeah, she probably. I'm not excited about that. But we're excited about episode 2 being the view of the real backbone to our successes.
It's not
we are today.
Right. It's not our viewpoint. Like it's their success. And I think that's what most people don't understand is like if we're in front of a camera in a race car, that's great, but it's the stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah. What's that saying? That behind every strong man is an even stronger woman?
That's a biblical quote. Yeah. So I mean it's like that is now it's a proven fact, man.
Yeah. So I'm excited to dive into it. And I kind of want to know, how was it that you two initially met?
Well, we met on Plenty of Fish.
Yes.
Yep. So, we're both Android users, and Plenty of Fish was an Android type app. And yeah, I think I was about to delete the app off my phone because I was headed down to Big Bend for a week, 2 weeks.
Dude, you
It
were
was a
all I know is she told me, "Hey, I'm headed out to Big Ben."
Yeah, I'm headed out to Big
Here's
Bend.
my phone number if you want to text.
Here's my number. I'm about to delete the app off my phone. You can text me whenever I get back. And then I was gone, no cell signal for however long I was gone. I think it was like a week and a half, something like that.
But you were by yourself because her friends stood her up.
Yeah, my friends were down there, and I was going to meet them. And then, unbeknownst to me, whenever I got down there, they had a big fight. And so the next day, they left. And I was like, well, I'm staying. Like, I made it 8 hours down here. Like, I'm not just picking up and driving back. So I stayed the rest of the time by myself and just kind of it's quiet.
Well, they do say trips make or break friendships. So
Yes.
Yeah. And so on my way back, he texted me. And I don't know if he had already texted me, but I just hadn't received anything. And so we started texting back and forth for probably 2 months that we just would text back and forth. And then finally, he called me one day and then he just never stopped calling.
Yeah.
And then he ended up to say, hey, I'm going to come and see you. And then he came one weekend. It was Cinco de Mayo. And we hung out all weekend. It was fun. And then it got to the point where it was like, okay, cool. Well, he's got a hotel room.
You got to tell about the goodnight kiss.
Oh, yes. Well, we're not there yet.
Oh, yeah, we're close.
We're there. Yeah.
We're close.
But we were parked at like one of the overlooks in Austin, and he pulled up his reservation. He's like, oh crap, my reservation isn't for this weekend, it's next weekend. And I was like, yeah, right, all right, good luck.
First date.
I guess you will be going back to your friend's house. Yeah, and sleeping on the couch because you're not coming back with me.
Yeah.
And
not until date 2.
So then we went back to his truck because I was driving around. And then whenever we got out, it started pouring down rain. And then we kissed. And then it, like, where we were, it was like there isn't anywhere, like, anybody close. And there was music.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the song? Dance Me to the End of Time?
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, Dance Me to the End of Time was playing, which is an old classic song. And it was just like pouring down rain, music playing, and I was like, what is this random weirdness?
I mean, it wasn't the best kiss either because it was dark and like teeth clacking.
Yeah.
Somebody brand new, right? You know?
Yeah.
It's like you don't know their style and you come up on them and it's like, and they're like, oh, night.
Yeah.
Did you have that song queued up?
No, dude. I was in her place.
Yeah. Like so... there was no we don't know who was playing music. Like no one was home in my house at the time. It was just kind of it was weird. But
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That was our first date.
That was our first date.
The first date.
The first time we had actually met, hung out. And then the next day, well, I think it was Pecan Street Festival. We went and did Pecan Street Festival and ate lunch downtown and all that.
You haven't been able to get rid of him since?
No. He just followed.
Yeah, I even, at that time I'd moved. I was like, hey, I'm moving to Dallas. Get back. I was back on my feet. And in the last episode we covered, like, I had spent like 15 years being blown out of my mind. But I'd gotten back on my feet and wanted to get back into the industry. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to move back to Dallas. And she thought, well, I'll never see this dude again.
Yeah. I'm not moving to Dallas.
I don't blame
Tried
you.
to get her
Sorry.
to. Now, that was a whole nother podcast on that discussion. But we found out that we were both pretty stubborn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I was gonna ask you too. Who's more stubborn? Is it a battle to rule or roost?
It's a good question. So
It depends, really, because if it has to do with putting things together, I 100% own that
yeah,
Yeah.
because he's not good at it.
if it's planning, that's me.
That's him. Yeah. So like trips and things like that, half the time I'm like, so where are we going again?
Yeah, she
When?
forgets.
I don't. I'm like, is it on the calendar? Okay,
But
cool. Because I don't.
but I think we've done a good job over the last what, probably 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
just filling in each other's gaps. So we stepped on each other's toes
A lot.
a lot the first 5 years because we were both A-type personalities. So and it was just weird. It was funky, just like anybody else getting on the path of a good relationship. It was weird.
How long did you guys date?
Let's see. That was May, and then February of the following year, he asked me to marry him. So.
A year.
Yeah.
Was it a year?
Little over a year.
A little
And
over
you
a
guys
year.
were.
Yeah.
Well, we were engaged, and then she asked for another year.
Yeah.
Before
I
we
wanted
got
a long engagement, so
Yeah.
we ended up
buying a house.
buying a house, and then he moved down, and then we got married the following.
Oh, and I think the important part of this buying the house, this is a really, really good topic. I think most people, we can just glaze over that, and most people will think, yeah, we just went out and bought a house. No, 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 no. Like,
No,
I had a pretty extensive record.
Yeah.
I got
and
blacklisted from apartments. I've never gotten a speeding ticket.
yeah, because
I don't.
you're
I like.
flagging.
I had no and I still to this day never gotten a speeding ticket. Knock on wood. But like, I got blacklisted
We couldn't
from
get an
apartment
apartment.
complexes because of his record, and they were
It was
like,
just
yeah.
so new, right? Just junk, like alcohol related charges, just not the type of people you'd like in a community. So we had to go, and we partnered with her parents and bought a house that we totally couldn't afford.
That's stressful.
Yeah. Well, and like, I was in
It
real
was out of
estate, so it was
necessity.
like, I was like, all right, I can use my commission as part of the down payments. We just need to come up with 0.5%, and
That's
and then
0.5%.
yeah,
Unheard of now.
yeah,
But
for the down payment, yeah.
that's how our
Well, and
life
we rolled
started.
in all the closing costs. Actually, it's not if you're a real estate agent. Like, it's because you get paid typically 3%.
Okay.
So then FHA, it's 3.5% down. So it's like
It was
Okay.
an
we
easy
had to-
path.
Yeah, I was like,
it was just
we can do this.
It was a
I don't know
big-
how we're gonna make monthly payments, but we
That
can
was-
at least buy it.
What was that? It was the beginning of betting on ourselves, right? So a lot of people, it's like you go to the horse races, you can bet. You can go to Vegas and bet. A lot of people buy into other companies and others. At that point in time, we figured if we can invest in ourselves and find a path forward together, and conquer things together, that's kind of the theme of our life. That's how it started, was getting into something like that early. So it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows.
No,
Like, I think you made a total of like $35,000 a year, and I was like 45, maybe 50 on a good day.
working for not a great
Yeah,
company.
it was
at the
just
time.
it was
But
a lot,
Yeah.
but we did what we had to do,
To
to
survive.
overcome some of that stuff.
So you guys got married a year after you started dating, or got engaged
Got
a year
engaged.
after you started dating.
Yeah.
And then got married a year after that.
Has Jay always been doing business, or has he, ever since you've known Jay, has he always been working for himself, or was he working for somebody when you met?
He was working for somebody when we met, and then I think the turning point was I walked upstairs and was hearing him getting really just belittled by his boss. And after the call, I was like, this is wrecking you. And like, why are you doing this? Just quit. I've got us for 6 months. Figure it out. And like, I've got all the bills for the next 6 months.
And
And
pills.
then
Just kidding.
but I've got us for the next 6 months. Figure it out. And then he was like, okay. And so I think probably, I don't know, that week he quit and was like, all right, I'm gonna do recruiting.
What
Yeah.
were you doing when
I was
that phone
recruiting.
call was
So,
happening?
yeah, why? What do you mean when she walked
When she
in?
walked in on that phone call?
I was just trying to really explain to the guy, like, I was trying to be really nice. I made an amends to him. I did the guy wrong. I mean, I didn't do him wrong. I just felt like I wasn't a good employee back when we first met. And so I went, made an amends. He came back. He was like, hey, why don't you start working again? And, you know, he'd been fairly supportive, but he just turned into a real a-hole after time. So I was just trying to explain to him like how I was building a book of business in Austin, and he was like, "Well, I never authorized that." I'm like, you know, tough shit, dude. You know? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to be nice to this guy, but she made a good point. Is like I never had anybody in a partnership go, "Wake up, dummy! Like you're being, you know, you're being used." And that's what turned a light on for me. And the second part of that was, "Hey, I got you for 6 months." What an incredible feeling!
Yeah.
Like never had anybody like that.
Yeah, because that's a very important piece. That goes back to the opening behind every strong man is an even stronger woman.
Oh, dude.
Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
hats off to y'all for that.
Yeah.
Because that's a big jump. It's a scary jump.
Yeah.
Because what happens when month 7 comes in and you don't have it figured out?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have. We would have.
We just,
would've-
yeah,
Yeah.
we figured out at that point in time, like,
Like
God,
I didn't stop grinding, so as much as I gave him a 6 month timeline, like really, I think I probably had us for a year and a half.
yeah, she had a really good, you know,
Yeah.
year or so, and then
What year is this taking place?
Ooh, 20. Let's see. that-
13.
No, we got married in 2014.
That's right. Sorry. Well, we lived together in 13, so
So
yes,
yeah, I
it
guess
was
it was
13.
2013. Yeah,
13, 14. So
Yeah.
fresh out of that economy,
yeah,
Mhm.
kind of starting to come up.
Yeah.
Real estate was starting to boom back
Oh
up
yeah.
again.
Yeah.
yep,
Because that 2010, I think, is when it started to turn back after all that
Yep.
crazy stuff.
Recruiting was coming
Yeah.
back on along with real estate, so we had some really good horsepower coming into a good economy,
Yeah.
and we just took advantage of it,
Yeah.
and you know, found a place, and the place that we ended up buying that we couldn't afford. Obviously, we could afford it. We just had to hustle.
yeah.
You know, the values in the Austin market just started
Booming. Well, and it
really
was
big time.
we bought in Pflugerville before Pflugerville was known. It was like people knew Austin, people knew Round Rock. Nobody knew Pflugerville, and Pflugerville's actually closer than Round Rock. And so we lived there for a grand total of 2 years before we sold that house
Mhm.
and moved out to Liberty Hill because it just started booming. We were like, there's too many people.
Yeah.
People found out about it, and we were like, okay, let's move further out.
So, how many businesses have you done over the course of y'all's marriage?
Personally funded are private equity, venture capitalists, all of them.
All of them.
All of them.
9.
Just 9?
9.
So, and she supported all 9 of.
She's gotten to the point where I just accepted the job we talked about on episode 1, and
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh crap, these are huge changes. She's like, dude, you do this all the time.
Yeah.
He gets
So
bored, and then you start seeing him start to flounder because he gets bored, and then it's like, go do something else.
yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah, dude, it's incredible to have somebody like, you know, we played that role for each other throughout our relationship, really.
I think
Like-
that's my problem is I get bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just get bored, like, doing that, and then I want to create other stuff.
That's a good question for Marlene. So when do you notice Chris getting bored? Like, what does Chris do when he gets bored? What are his like telltale signs?
Oh my gosh. Where should I begin?
Wherever.
I can't take a vacation for longer than a week because if we're in a different place for a week, he's like looking for opportunities. And I'm like, I just came here to relax. Like, why are we starting a whole business on an island? I just came to relax. And he's like, well, next time we come, I'm going to get to work. And I'm like, but I want to relax.
Yeah, you can relax. You can relax. There's money flying in every day,
Yeah.
and I just want a little percentage of that. So, while you're doing that, I can't. If I sit and relax, I get a headache.
Yeah. No,
I
I'm.
can't. I get
feel
a
you.
headache. I like start. I don't know. Then I sleep too much, and then I feel useless. And then I'm like, yeah, I gotta do something. So
So you work to stay out of your psychosis.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
yeah, if I stay idle too long, then I'm like,
Yeah.
I need a challenge. I need.
You'd be a gamer, wouldn't you?
I think once you're like business minded, like you can't get out of that mindset because it doesn't matter where you go or what you do. You're always like seeing opportunities in anything that you do or that you see. And I think that's kind of where he's at. I mean, everywhere we go, it's like, oh, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity. We can try this. We can try that. especially like now that we're going to Boyd in a rural area, we're like, oh, we need this out here. And it's kind of hard not to.
Yeah, we're like, we got 24 acres and we're only using a small section of it. So what can we do? It's like, I don't want to mow all of that.
No, you don't want to mow all of that.
We'll be getting we got some Herefords.
Yeah.
Yep, I will take one.
So
Gladly.
we experience the same similar vacations, and I think it's, I don't know. I mean, I think the entrepreneurial spirit is one of those. It's like we don't want to dampen, right? But it's also one of those like, when do I get off the train? Do you ever feel that way?
Always.
Okay. What about
Always.
I don't think I've noticed this being on a train.
you? I feel like it's a train. I mean, it's a bullet train sometimes.
A bullet train is right. Yes, it is nonstop.
Yeah.
I wake up and we're
Yeah.
ready. Let's go.
I was telling Garrett today, this morning on the ride over, I was like, man, I woke up at 4:30 and it was not one of those good wake ups. It was one of those boom.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, all these thoughts just come roaring in. You're like, no, not right now. And then you get this mini panic attack and you're like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
I got to start over.
I
So,
always say I live in a constant state of fight or flight.
yeah.
I don't know, like, baseline what is relaxing to most. Like, I don't know what that is since I've been with him and we've had a business.
You know what? So I got a general question for everybody. Does it make it hard to find people to hang out with?
Absolutely.
Yes.
There
Yes.
is almost nobody.
Right.
Yeah. It's so hard to find anybody that I like. Our friend circle is so small
Yeah.
because
It's just tough,
you
man.
meet people and then you're like you think you're going to click and then you start trying to get into a deeper conversation and you're like there's just
Found nothing.
nothing there. There's no
Yeah.
commonality.
But then you
Yeah.
meet people and then you're like, finally. you
Yes.
know?
Okay, they get it.
And that
And
was
it-
what was cool about
It
finding
gets
it.
harder when you have kids too, because
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
start seeing the way that other people are raising their children and the way that you want to raise your children, and you're like,
Just, yeah. it was-
I'm not here to judge you on
Yeah.
your parenting style, but that's not how we want to raise our children.
I want to raise boys that are. So we have 2 boys, and we're raising little CEOs. So it's like that balance of trying to make sure that they're respectful, but not crush their fire for what they want to do with their life. And one of our children is a lot harder to
Yep.
do that with than the other
Wait,
one.
y'all have one of
Is
those?
it, is it the second child?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
something about that second
Something
child.
about the
Yeah.
second child.
Well, so it's either the first one tricks you into having
Yes.
the second one, or the first one is the second one
Yeah.
that makes you that makes it so you don't want to have another one. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, which I get it. Like
Yeah.
I've got the 2 that I'm like, if we had a third, our second would definitely be
And I would
the
be way
quintessential third child or middle child.
Middle child, yes.
That would put me up there in the age range, too. So
Yeah.
Sawyer was born when I was 40.
Oh, wow.
hmm
Yep.
But I'm glad. Yeah, but think about who I was at like 35.
Yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
know him.
Yeah.
I'm 47 now. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It all lined up in the right way. And that's kind of how our story began. So,
Having that mindset of the business and now you brought kids in, did you plan to have the kids in that time frame that you were trying to?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We whenever
was
we got
intended.
married,
Yeah.
we knew we wanted to have
I think we have a
kids.
honeymoon baby.
We do have a honeymoon baby. And so it was like we got back from Kauai and it was like I literally the day after went and got a test and then was like, "Hey, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're having a baby."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
so this is the kids have been there all through these 9 adventures.
I would say
Except for
seven,
Sawyer.
7 of them.
7 of them.
Yeah.
You take into account anything, whether it be time spent, time away. Do you weigh what you're going to do in any of those business options based on home life, family life, and everything?
What she's doing. So, first
Okay.
is what she has going on. So, I think our balance is we both go through some different trials. And, you know, we've never really chosen to try to go through the trial at the same time. Probably a bad idea. So what, 4 years ago, you took a role that you'd never had before, and she took on managing, 150 plus agents, and she needed some support because she was learning how to be a leader, number one. Number two, learning how to foster relationships with people that she's never met really before. But I think the big one was learning about business as a whole. I mean, she had had an established real estate practice for a bit, to learn from, but you throw another 150 people into that, and some other dynamics. She needed support for like 4 years, but the kids, I'll just be straight up. Like, I feel like they also think, their perception of what we do for a living is that we make money. They don't know what we do. Sometimes they know more that mom's in real estate, dad is an enigma. So I think,
But they don't know what that means. Like they'll come to my office every once in a while and be like, "Well, this is selling real estate." I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
like
this is
me
managing people.
This is managing people. Like this is me in an office setting. This is not what it is to go out and try and sell real estate." Now, whenever I would go with to show property, I used to take them with me, and
Yeah.
so they were my little helpers.
And for some of us that don't understand the real estate or what you did you own the real estate or you were the realtor in a branch? And then how does that relationship work?
Yeah, so I was a commercial real estate agent, realtor, and I would sell real estate. So I would help people achieve their real estate goals.
Okay.
And that was my main thing that I did. And then um, I started managing the Williamson County
She was
branch.
promoted to the vice
Yeah.
president over.
So you work for
Yeah.
a firm.
Mhm.
Is that what it's called?
Yes.
A firm?
Yep.
So you worked for a firm. It
Yeah.
wasn't your own
Right.
firm. But not to be confused because you as a realtor um dictate your own success.
Yes. So I am still a realtor and I still sell. So I still actively sell and I still actively create those relationships. But on top of that, I am also helping other realtors learn the craft, learn how to do what I do. And my goal is to have them be successful.
And why do people work for firms instead of you going out creating your own?
So you have to um, be under a brokerage. So for a period of time in order to learn the business.
Yeah.
And you have to have a number of sales before you can become a broker. And once you become a broker, then your liability goes way up.
Yeah.
And so that's mainly why I've always been where I am because, well, first off, I absolutely love my brokerage and have a really great relationship with the owner. And I just, I don't want to take on that level of liability, especially with how much liability we have with all of the other businesses.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Yeah, that's my comfort level.
Mm.
So that's where I am comfortable. And the more that we add on, it's like I have to create comfort in what I do. So I'm an introvert naturally. So I prefer to be, not in the spotlight.
In the
However,
bathtub with an old fashioned. That is
yeah.
just one.
Just
Not
one.
two because she can't get out.
Yeah,
Just one.
just one. But I like literally whenever I got put into the role of helping all of these other agents, that was way out of my comfort zone. So it took me a long time to be able to get up, learn how to speak in public, and not really
Throw up.
Just like I did before this.
Yeah.
So that's what I was gonna immediately ask you, because I was like, what a journey like you like took on being promoted, first of all, out of your comfort zone. So not to skip over a backstory, but like how in the world did you just instantly become the backbone of Bailey's High Performance? Like how does one just turnkey that? Because it's a little complicated, I'm sure.
It is.
And
So
if he's like me, he's probably, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, and he's throwing
yeah.
everything every.
So we met, and I was working at a bank we shall not name.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to go work in healthcare. So I was working 312s, and I had a really nice schedule. I worked Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I worked at the shop with him. And it got to the point where I couldn't be on the unit and not get a call from him or somebody, a vendor needing something. And I'm like in the corner, my call light's going off. And finally,
Which one, the life or the car?
yeah. And then finally, one day he was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "We're going to get married. We want to have kids. Like, why are you still there?" And I was like, well, it's just my comfort zone. Like, I'm a creature of habit. I don't like change. Once I'm somewhere, like, and I'm happy, I'm good. I was like, I got my benefits. Like, I'm good. And he was like, but there's so much more. Like, you don't have to rely
Wow.
on, your management there. And corporate's very hard.
It is.
It's
I
very
worked it.
hard. Moving up is very hard when you're in a corporate setting. There's a lot of
Bullshit.
politics involved. And so he was like, just leave. And I was like, I mean, fuck it, I guess. Like,
What else? I mean,
yeah, like I would work my 312s and then the hospital is literally right across the highway. So I would get off of work. I'd come to the shop. I'd get some stuff done. So we'd get home, like 8 o'clock in the evening. And then I'd wake up the next day, come to the shop. And so it just was kind of that next step.
yeah.
But throughout that time, I had learned a lot about it. But then I think there's a lot more that we could possibly talk about in another one, in another podcast, because there's also a lot of trust issues with having people in the office.
Yeah.
Like, I think at that time as well, we had some employees
Oh, yeah. We all
that
go through
left.
Just
And so it was like our main office guy had left, 2 guys in the shop had left, and they had started trying to do their own shop. And so we were getting word that they were, calling customers and saying, hey, no, you guys need to come to us. So then a lot of trust issues were starting to come into play.
yeah. That's
Finding money, missing.
I mean, and I think that's everybody's. We
Parts
deal
that
with
are
the same
missing.
stuff. I think I talked to somebody the other day. I was another business owner. Took him 250 employees over the last 2 years to get 80 good people.
Yeah, I
That's-
can believe that.
I mean, yeah, and it still shocks me as a person that's been in recruiting and HR for so long. But I think before we get too far, let's back all the way up, and I want to hear the story of how you guys met through Marlene's kind of eyes.
How did we meet? So I worked at a bank we shall not name.
Yeah.
And he was a customer, and he would come in.
A customer, like
A
what kind of
customer.
customer was he? Was he one of these that you look forward to coming in, or was he like,
Like,
Here
here it comes.
here comes this geeky dude
Well,
trying
he
to
used to
deposit his
always bring
$200
cash,
check?
and
All dirty, greasy,
And he was-
nasty, all the stuff on the sides. Yeah, that
yeah,
was
pretty
me.
much.
I'm like, so girl.
You didn't even care, did you?
Things all over the place, dirty hands. Yeah.
And I'm very shy. Like, if you meet me in person, I'm very like reserved. And the thing about me is like my chest will tell you immediately if I'm nervous, angry, or just trying to hold it in. And so like he would come in and my chest would just flare up.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would get so nervous. I would mess up his deposits all the time.
On purpose or just
No, just because I was like so nervous. And then at
Really?
the end of the day, I'm like, well, my freaking drawer's off. Like, great.
So he's costing you money already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Gee.
costing him money.
Yep.
Which,
Dude, I would find every reason to go into that bank. Like, it's 4 quarters. I
I need to
oh
watch
my
the
gosh.
car.
So
This
he
needs
literally,
to happen.
somebody paid him in coins. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? He came in with a
a
shoebox
full of coins.
And
I
I
was
was like,
the
you have
Spec
got
V
to be
guy,
kidding me.
probably.
Probably. You know, it was 2009, 10, somewhere in that range, right? I'm just like
The big water bottle full of
trying to figure it out.
I was like, I'm just dumping this in a bag and I'm sending it to back office. I'm not counting this for you. I'm sorry. They'll notify you what it was.
Yeah, so I was hoping that that would be the long deposit that she'd have to count the coins.
She's
start
like,
a
sorry, sir, I'm
conversation.
not.
She's
Sorry,
like, yeah, we'll report
You had a
back to you."
plan.
And I was like,
You're like, dang it.
oh, okay, I guess I'll go.
You just
Yeah.
have to be efficient, you know. So.
sorry.
So
And then one day, oh, and then he used to bring me coffee, and I was not a coffee person at that time. I'm a tea girl. Like
Yeah.
I love hot tea, and so I would just take the coffee, I'd sip on it a little bit, and then just kind of leave it. And then one day I was finally like, hey, I don't like coffee. I really like tea.
And he's like, oh, let me go get you some tea.
yeah, idiot. You bringing a coffee 5 times? We're done.
Could have changed it out. You could have changed it out.
So then he started bringing me tea, and then I was like, oh, hey, actually, like I kind of like the caffeine.
She's like, you got me hooked and addicted to caffeine and a coffee.
Like
I'm
now I need coffee to get going.
now you
So
created a monster. Idiot.
but so that's kind of was our back and forth. And then one day he came in with a whole bunch of cash. And I was like, well, I'm not going to mess this one up. So I put it in the counter. And he was like, no, like, I really think you need to count it. And I was just like, I don't have time for this. So I put it in the counter again. And he was like, no, I really think you need to count it.
She was like, no, I am not counting your cash. I mess up your deposits. I'm not doing that. I was like, no, you're doing that.
So he grabbed it.
Because she
And
got
then
it all out of order.
he started just laying them down. And I was like, oh, it's at dinner at 7 on the bills. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, you just like ruined money. Like this money, I need to take it out of circulation now.
Because she's by the book. She's
Yeah,
a by
I
the
know.
book.
I have one too.
By the
I
book.
would
But
do
yes,
the
I
same
will
thing.
gladly go to dinner with you at 7.
She's like, but you made me do more work. Now
Yeah.
I have to fill out paperwork.
It's gonna be 7:15.
I have to turn in the date request.
Stupid.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Go get me some coffee.
Take this out of circulation.
dang it.
Give me some coffee, fool.
And so we went to dinner, and he was like, I don't know what you thought. Like, did you think I was just going to have like a salad or something? Because I saw the fear in his face.
Oh, dude, she ordered half a menu.
Yeah.
And we were sitting down, and I was eating, and he was like, are you done? And I was like, no.
Did you really ask that on the?
Dude, no, I
Did you?
thought she didn't eat at all for the whole week.
Well, is that any of your business? I mean, you asked her out, dude.
Which is great. And it wasn't the problem, but like, she threw down.
Yeah.
Usually,
Yeah,
you
I was
get girls
hungry.
that were like, they bird eat because they're too afraid to like,
Yeah.
you know, they don't want to eat in front of whoever and all that. And no, dude, she threw down.
Yeah. I love that.
And I was like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's gonna be my food person.
Yep.
I like food.
Where'd y'all go?
Oh my God. It was what was that restaurant? So it was in a gas station, but it had been
Whoa.
on TV.
Yeah,
What was
No,
it
dude, you
called?
Took her to a gas station
Yeah.
for your first
it was
date.
a really good, but it has a unique story.
Quick
I forgot
Trip.
the name
It
of
was
it.
Quick Trip.
Was it Chef Point maybe?
Chef Point. It was Chef Point. So this was a guy. He was a chef, and he went to the bank to get a loan, but they wouldn't give him a loan for a restaurant.
Gas station.
But they would give him because he was of a nationality,
Yeah.
right? So they wouldn't give him a loan for the restaurant, but they said, "But we'll give you one for a gas station." And so he opened up the gas station and put his restaurant in the gas station.
It's funny enough. That's what she has a client that does just that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
He started selling pizza and a gas station.
Oh,
and
really?
then
because he could get loans for
Yeah.
a gas station.
well, and then he ended up having multiple pizza locations in these gas stations, and then finally the owner of the gas station was like, hey, I'm retiring and I'm going to sell these gas stations, do you want to buy them? And he was like, yeah.
Cool.
So then he ended up buying gas, and that's how
Mhm.
he got into gas stations in the 80s.
So
That's cool.
we're at Chef. What's it called again?
Chef Point.
Chef
Point.
Point. So you're at
Yeah.
Chef Point. She's throwing down. Are y'all drinking?
Throwing.
No.
No drinks?
No drinks. It was just food.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, give me all the food.
So it's a 7 o'clock. Y'all have dinner. Like, what happens next?
Oh,
Like,
no, so I am Hispanic. So my parents were very
Really?
like, yeah. So, I grew up in a traditional Hispanic household
yeah,
where, you got to be gone by this time, you got to be home by this time.
sure.
You got to let me know where you're going, who you're going with. So, yeah, that's kind of was
I
like,
mean,
this
it
is
was
this is
dinner.
what
Did
you're
you
getting
take her
into.
home, or did y'all just
Yeah, no, he
drive?
picked me up at the door.
Picked her up at the door,
Mm-hmm.
took her, dropped her back off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was still living with her parents.
Yeah.
And I just real simple, easy.
So, what were you thinking when you left?
I couldn't wait for the second one. Right?
What were you thinking?
I was excited. I was really, really happy to meet. Like, I had known him for a while just from like the bank. So we joked around and we had a really good connection, really good chemistry. So I was really excited. I knew all along what he did. He had a business. He would always tell me how busy he was. So for me, the fact that he would go out of his way in between his busy schedule, that really meant a lot for me.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It's like you're realizing somebody's trying to put their dream together. Number one,
Yeah.
like that. You don't meet a lot of people like that.
No.
And when you do, you take inventory, and you're like, this guy's taking time. To make sure that.
Which I think the problem with like the younger women these days is that social media has kind of led them, given them this false idea of like, when a man comes to you to date you, he needs to have it all figured out. He needs to take you out on these like $500 dinner dates. And you just need to, you're the prize.
Right.
I grew up being taught that, you find a partner, you guys have the same goals, you guys build a life together.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to have it figured out. You do it together. And so I didn't expect him to have it all figured out.
Yeah. The $500 dinners come later.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you can sit back and go, you look at your body of work, you start to enjoy some of the things that you really grinded for. So that's.
I was pacing back and forth one time when I knew. I was like, yeah, she's the one. So I was in the bank. I have my uncle Co then and still now was my advisor, right? Guy would bounce a bunch of ideas off. And having a business, I always think it's kind of good to have a group of guys that you can just
Mandatory.
just bounce
Mandatory.
things off. Not in your industry.
Yep.
They don't have to be, but just bounce them.
Blatantly honest people.
Yep. And that was him.
Yeah.
Right. And he taught me a lot. That I attest a lot of the success that I have today because of what he's instilled. Right. So my Uncle Co, I'm on the phone with him, and I'm on the fence of paying off the loan, the business loan.
Oh.
Okay.
So did you do like a traditional SBA or?
No, it was just like a line of credit.
Line of credit,
Yeah.
25K is what I took out.
Yeah.
And stretched it out over 5 years. So I was pacing back and forth in the bank. I had just made a decent sized deposit, and I was like, man, like I'm nervous. Like, should I do this? Should I not? What do you think? This is it. And he goes, well, what are you paying on interest? And then he's very blunt. And I said, well, this is what I'm paying a month. He goes, fuck that.
Yeah, exactly.
Get done. And at then the right interest rates were kind of low, so it wasn't much
Right.
that I was paying in interest. And he goes, do you know that guy that you're writing, that you're paying the interest to? Like, are you guys friends? I was like, no, I don't know who he is. And he goes, so why are you giving him money? I said, just pay it off.
Yeah.
What are you worried about? And she's there, and she's looking at the account. She just made the deposit. And I'm like, man, he's really tough. Like, I'm sweating. Like, this is going to leave.
It's a lot of money.
This is going to leave, like, maybe 1,000 or so.
Right. And you got to cover payroll.
Yeah. And I'm just like, you guys are crazy. Like, I don't think. And she goes, no, you can just do it. You have it. Just do it. And I was like, oh, no. Like, I can't. And she's like, just do it. The push that she was giving me was a nice backup motivator, right?
Right.
And it's like, it just made her that much more attractive, because I was like, yeah, she's she's going to help push me to what I want to be, right?
So how long have you known him and you're giving him like
Just a couple months.
Yeah.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're like, you already care enough about this dude to like give him pretty solid advice
Yeah, I was
to
just
like
like, what's the problem? Like,
get rid of the crappy loan.
Yeah.
You-
She goes, it's a line of credit. It's still there if you need it.
Right. It's not like
You're not losing it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's coming out of this one. But I came from nothing,
same.
right? So we came from nothing. We had no money. We didn't have any of that. So it was like, my precious, and I don't want to
You
let it
can't
go.
do that in business though, man. That's
And
the
you
problem.
can't, right? But now I've learned that, and I'm like, I just don't want to let it go. Like I want to keep making my little payments here, but keep all this here. And then she pushed me to that. We bounced up again, got more money, and I kept doing that. And then the government kept taking more.
Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do for sure. So 2 months in, you're giving him really good, solid advice. You're like, "Hey, you need to pay this off."
Yeah.
Did he get you the $500 dinner then, or?
you know,
It was $75,
yeah,
which was a lot.
back in the day.
I know, dude.
But it was also before like all this inflation, so I got a lot more food for $75.
Yeah.
I mean, from there we just kind of kept, going on dates, but our dates mainly consisted of, where we were at, what we wanted for the future. So there was a lot of talking about where we saw ourselves, and what we wanted out of life.
It's a lonely world
Isn't it?
of what we do, entrepreneurship, being in business. It's a lonely world, right? So you don't have someone that you can just go talk to. Like you can't just go to some of your buddies and be like, dude.
They're like, what?
Yeah, they'd be like, but like this. Why don't you just go work for somebody? That's ridiculous. You know? And it's like it's 9 to 5, dude. I don't. It's 6 o'clock. I don't talk about work.
Yeah.
See ya, right? So, but it never ends. So it's a lonely world for us that are constantly thinking about, are we gonna have another dollar so we can eat?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, she listened.
Ooh. So she heard you, and like she understood.
Yeah.
Like
She would just listen.
well, she also had access to your bank
Yeah,
account,
she did.
which helps.
Nothing to brag about then.
She'd
But
be like, okay, well, he can afford at
Yeah.
least $150 worth of
Yeah.
dinner.
So, it was nice to have someone to listen
Right.
because we dated. Of course, we dated other people before we met, things like that. But
So, oh, that's a good question. So when you guys dated, right, and you couple months in, did you have any interest in anybody else, or
no,
No.
isn't that weird? That was the same I felt with Andrea. Same.
no. And it was
I wasn't even looking. Like I was just doing me, and I wasn't looking for anybody. I had gone through some stuff in my previous relationship, and I just was like, I'm just done.
Yeah, I think we all have that.
and it was the same. So it's finding a partner that would listen and care about what I was going through. It's not because they really have to, right? But I chose the life that I chose. But I want a partner that's going to just listen to what I got to say. You don't always have to have your opinion, but just listen. And sometimes in the middle of me talking about it, it's like, ah.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything, but and it's like,
We have a lot of those moments too.
Yeah.
It is. It's and like you brought up the point. It's like it's lonely until you find somebody that is going to listen to the constant session of ideas. And I tell people nowadays, like the biggest loneliest place on the planet is inside your own head. And once you start unlocking the power to be able to communicate, get people around you that matter, get a partner in life, like you really start to see success from that point. And I'm not saying that, we're the most successful people on the planet. We're just like y'all. We work really hard for every single dollar, and we can account for it. We know where it comes from, and we know what we trade for it. And there's bumps and bruises, but it's at the same time we know that we have a support system, small circle, and each other.
yeah,
And that's just been of recent, like for us, for me at least, learning, through just like we were talking about on episode 1, is like some of the counseling stuff is like Andrea is actually my safe place.
yeah,
Had no idea. I thought it was something else that I had to support. No, this is it. Like
Yeah.
that's what I've learned.
That's the same because it's wild, and sometimes out there, like she's just in the office, and sometimes I'll just come in. I'm like, I'm just gonna hang out with you for a minute, and then it's like Control Alt Delete,
Yeah.
reboot. All right, we're coming out. We're
Yeah.
ready to go, and that's it.
Yeah.
But lonely is the world that lonely is the road that we've picked to travel.
True.
Well, and it's kind of crazy to hear him say that it's how lonely it was at that time because he was always surrounded by people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Customers.
No, employees, customers.
Yeah, just yeah. It's a lonely area.
He was always surrounded by people, and I think that was one of our biggest struggles in the beginning was like he always needed to be around people, and I was just like, I don't want to.
Really?
Like I just want to be alone, you know, like and he'd be like, you hate people, and I'm like, no, I don't hate people. It's just everybody is just taking from you. And I don't want to be around the people that are just taking from you. Like they're not adding to you in any way.
Ooh. So you've got someone that's giving you really good financial advice. Pay the shitty loan off.
Yeah.
Then you have someone that's telling you, hey guy, you're hanging out with the wrong people.
Yeah. And at first, that's very offensive.
Isn't it? Isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It was, I think one of our biggest fights was just,
Yeah. What's wrong with Joe Bob? Huh?
Yeah. It was just like I don't understand. Like
Right.
we've been friends for so long, and they're like, yeah, but what have they done for you?
why are you paying for their cell phone? Why are you paying for every drink when you guys go out? Why are you paying for all these things? What are they doing for you?
Well, he's working for me. Yeah, but that's his job.
Right. Yeah.
And then, so coming from a very corporate setting, I'm like, these lines, you cannot blur these lines.
Right.
Like, this is not good.
Yeah.
But I'm like a very friendly guy.
Sure.
Like I'm a nice guy. Like everybody's
Dude.
a friend. Everybody's good. Everybody's.
My 9-year-old took you for a ride, in like an hour going through the pits at 2K?
Dude, he
had sunglasses.
I think he tilted me up and was like, "Cool, thanks." I just kept my money.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's
but
like, "Man, I got all these plus my cash.
Hot
I'm
Wheels,
good."
sunglasses.
Didn't
he
you pay
did.
for his some kind of food, something or
Oh,
other?
I
I was
bought
like, where
his
did you
food.
get all this? What do you?
But yeah,
I mean, he's got, have you seen that little face though?
I
yeah,
know.
yes.
It's the eyes.
I
It's those
bought his
blue eyes.
food.
that
I
you're
bought
like-
his cars, his toys, all that stuff. We walked around. I think we got a shirt or something, and we were having a grand old time.
But that's the point is like, get your circle like automatically is like, you keep saying the road is lonely, but we have people that work with us. And I always say with us, I don't believe I work for anybody or if anybody works for me. It's like we're working together. There are some lines that I've had success of having some internal friendships there. And I've seen other people have success with that, but it's very few. And I think Marlene has a really good point is like, who is adding to you? And I think that's a really good point for everyone is like, I think once you step back and you examine the people that are around you, you can almost tell where your next step is going to be.
Yeah.
Because if they're not adding something to you every time that there's a real, that you guys have an interaction, and you're not adding to them, then that relationship peters out at this age and this time in this world.
So I'm very easy to flip a switch on people that I feel I could know people for a long period of time, and that's fine. We can have a great friendship, great relationship, and even all the people that we were around and involved with, I don't talk to any of them, but maybe one or two anymore. But it's very easy to flip that switch for me. So, and what's made it easy is to protect her and our relationship, right?
Right.
So, flipping the switch is if they said something that just kind of rubbed it wrong, did something that didn't do anything right, said something that may have offended her, like, all right,
Yeah.
it's out. Your vision's not the same line. You're any of this. You do these things. Your life is involved with this. Like, we're done.
Yep.
It's I appreciate the friendship, but
Not going anywhere,
like
man.
like this is my safe place. Like I have to protect
Mm-hmm.
the treasure, and so some of those things have just been made to protect that because her value to me is far greater than anything.
Yep.
Right.
That makes
So,
sense. You gotta, it's protecting that top level relationship like we were talking about
Yeah.
in episode 1, is protecting that home, right? Because regardless of what it may seem, right, the chaos, the decisions, and then the outward appearance of like, oh, it must be nice or whatever, just that bond here and what's going on here,
Yeah.
like that's where all the chaos peaks, and that relationship has to be extremely strong, and it's going to be tested over time. And I think one of those big things that a lot of people get in marriage and entrepreneurship is they don't protect that, and they go off and they kind of, and they, you see a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they go single, right?
Yeah.
and, and I'm like, man, that's there's no way I could do what I do without Andrea. There is absolutely no way. Wouldn't even try it.
So she pushed you to do a lot of the decisions.
So I'll back up. The way that I see things is through an emotional eye, and I have a giving heart, kind of like you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So identical, really, is like you think about that, and then you start to snowball some of these things and people that you don't need to be around, and that kind of falls off with her logic. Is it's very sound. You can, hey, what do you think about so and so, or how is this going or whatever. So she doesn't really push me. She just gives me another level of a data point to make a decision and base decisions off of.
So you said another thing of losing or the small circle of friends. Is that because some of them influence some of your decisions or try to interject opinions when you guys are separate?
We've never really had any drama between like that. It's just we sniff it out really quick.
Yeah.
It's almost impenetrable.
Yeah.
Like we've had a couple in work, right? I think within our businesses, we've had a couple like number ones or number twos that we got really close with, and we gave fairly long leashes, enough rope to hang yourself without
Yeah.
lack of a better term. And we've been bitten a few times like that. But personally, like with people, we're pretty good judge.
Things I think that she could probably talk on were some friends that we would hang out with. The girls would get together and go do wild things, and then they would just complain.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Like whenever we lived in a neighborhood, there was a mom's group, and I would go out with them, and then I would find myself like being like, I feel like I'm your husband's and you're all bitching about me. Because like I'm the one that's like, I'm the messy one. He's the OCD one. He's, and I'm like, why are you complaining? Like this is
For me, it's
your
hard
partner.
because when you're in a group of women, like you want to say place to vent, but like my husband does this, my husband does that. And I'm like, well, what did you do though?
Yeah.
Where's the accountability?
And then they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, but what did you do? Oh,
Yeah.
well, I did this and I did that. Well, I mean, yeah, like if
Tell
you're
the full
doing
story.
that, why would he do X, Y, and Z for you?
Yeah.
And it's like they don't want to hear that. They just want you to be like, yeah, he's a fucking asshole. Like fucking leave him already.
Yeah.
You know, pardon my French, but
no, and that's what happened in my friend group. I started seeing women that were like they would just go on these like bitch sessions really of their spouse, and I'm like, no thanks. And then they all started getting divorced, and I was like, yeah, I really have no like don't want to be involved in any of that.
So then that's when that road gets real lonely.
Yeah, because you're like, well, and that's where I started feeling like, well, I've got like a couple of core friends.
Yeah.
And that's it. And they've all got really strong relationships, to where I'm like, we go out and we talk about stuff that we're passionate about. It's not about our spouse and venting sessions. It's about, well, here's what I want to do, and here are the things that, and you just start vibing on what you want to do and it be inspirational instead of just this negative session.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like I don't want to have friends that are coming to hang out with us just because they have so much conflict between them.
Yeah.
That coming to hang out is a way for them to avoid it.
Yeah.
Like I want friendships that are going to grow with us, and more importantly, you know, be there for our children too. I'll tell you, you don't realize how lonely it is and how lonely you are until you are sitting with your attorney and working on your trust and your will. And it's like, okay, well, if you guys die, who's next?
Yeah.
And then like obviously my parents, but then it's like, well, what if something happens to your parents? And then you're like we looked at each other and we're like, fuck. Like there's only like one couple that, you know, they're
Charity.
amazing friends, like family. We love them, you know, their values, their children. Our children call them, you know, uncle and aunt, and you know, like aside from that, I mean,
That's it.
that's it. And you know, it
pretty
really,
scary, yeah.
it really makes you like look at things and be like, well, we're lonely.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. And I think a lot of why we're doing this podcast is to kind of open up. Because here's the cool part about, you know, the way that we met, and then we had time to hang out in Vegas.
Yeah.
Which it was cool because you could see how it was going, and it was like I was not offended that Chris is on the phone all the time.
Oh, that's another tough one because we'll go out with a group of people and they're like, oh, you're always on your phone, like put your phone down. And I'm like, I mean, I'm his wife and I feel that same way too, but like you don't understand what it takes to run a business.
Right. And I think that's, I mean, and we struggle with the same thing, but at the same time, it's like our honeymoon, remember? It was, hey, we'll work these days because of the hours.
Yeah. And then, we
we
have issues whenever we go on vacation. We start getting antsy to get back. And like, no, we really need to start, like, let's,
Get the scaries all over.
yeah.
Right.
Because you're like, okay, I've left all this stuff. And then inevitably, I'll have some kind of contractual issue whenever we're on vacation that I'm like,
Yeah. So it just pays to actually be able to work a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
our
Just a
last
couple of-
vacation was 2 weeks, and my parents flew out after like the first week, like right at the week mark, and we were leaving the airport, and Chris was like in a panic, and he was like, "We overdid this. Like we need to. I'm gonna look at flights tomorrow. Like we need to go back home." And I was just like, "All right, like if that's what you feel, you know." And we got back to our Airbnb, and my brother was staying at our house, and he was like, "Yeah, we're getting hit with ice." And we were like, "Oh, okay."
you ain't going nowhere.
So everything, it was like 2-inch ice at the shop, and Chris was like, all right, nobody go to work. And so we were able to really enjoy that next week. But you know what? I'm not gonna kid you. Everything shut down. Like Texas, we get a little bit of ice and everything shuts down.
oh yeah.
And people were still like, hey, is my car gonna be ready?
You got that thermostat?
Yeah. They were like, you know, is it going to be ready? I'm like, I'm seeing what's going on. And you're still asking me if your stuff's going to be?
Yeah, there are those, man, and you get it home, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you don't really think past what you want.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'm gonna check in. We're like, well, maybe Chris is on vacation, or maybe the shop shut down because.
But
there's
you know
2
what?
inches of
It's
ice.
really, I never post real time.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to post that we're anywhere or doing anything because as a business owner, you work 24/7. So when you treat yourself for nice things, you get comments that are like, oh, must be nice, must be nice. So I never feel like I can share certain things.
Can't.
Yeah.
It's very, very
That's
hard.
That's the whole reasoning behind this.
I 100% feel that.
So if I can just help him by taking away certain little things throughout the day off of his plate, like that's me letting him know, like, hey, I'm thinking about you. I love you.
Yeah. I do that a lot too. Just try to find stuff that, because now she's going in, right? And used to, it was the opposite. It's like I was in corporate gigs where it was like I was always in the office. Now I work from home, but you know, I still have some leverage. But I think my big thing is, you know, if I'm able to take a few things off of her plate, and make her comfortable, I know that when I ask for time later, like, she's going to be able to, yeah, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that give and take.
So, what are some of the best achievements as a couple that you guys have done?
I know number one.
Our kids.
No.
That was my
Wow.
that would be my number one.
So that's where the wives are. Like our
So,
kids. That's pretty high up there
It's high up
accomplishment.
there. I think
Um,
number one was the minute after we got married. The next morning we got baptized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that journey started us on the path of being able to be open with some people that we trusted about a life and seeking counsel.
Yeah.
Because it was tough. Like pre-marriage, like we went to.
We did a lot of counseling.
We
And
did.
that's something like I think we're really strong about is figuring out,
That's a
okay,
big
Yeah.
we're struggling, and instead of us just struggling by ourselves,
Or
we
distancing ourselves in the
Yeah.
house like happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw my parents grow apart, a
Yeah.
little bit in the house.
And so as soon as we start feeling that or like sensing that, hey, we're not communicating anymore, we need to seek help. And so we are constantly like, all right, let's do that instead of just talking about it and then letting it get to a point where it explodes and
yeah, you
goes
get into these
further.
stupid cycles.
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest accomplishments we have is like being able to seek outside help.
Yeah.
And I think,
And knowing when to.
yeah,
Like that's a big thing because a lot of people get into just everything's fine. It's fine.
Mhm.
It's fine. And it's like it's not fine.
Yes, things are.
Yeah.
Everything's burning up behind you.
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
That's exactly it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think about like resiliency? So our walk is a faith walk. So we depend a lot on guidance and what the Bible tells us to be true about what Jesus wants for our lives. So that requires a ton of faith and a ton of just like walking through the fire.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think that's my life on a daily basis.
yeah,
Like I just
it's like being able to walk right through the fire and not even know if there's a cliff on the other end. If there is, I
I'm
got a
still
parachute.
walking because
Yeah.
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 And so I think being resilient and like we've had our asses handed to us a couple times, more than a couple times in different ways, but we've always had these truth bombs or we've always learned these like incredible lessons from like those beat downs.
Yeah.
So what about y'all?
Definitely our children. I'm really proud of the way that we're able to parent our children and that we both have the same values and aspirations for what we want for our children.
Yep.
But also we've been through a lot in this business, in
Yeah.
this industry, and we always together find a way.
That's so awesome.
It's been
tough.
It
It's
is.
been tough.
we've had some really dark days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we
We've
all
had threats of like people just based on lies, people saying like, "Oh, we're gonna go burn down the building with Chris and everybody in it," and
Yep.
I'm sitting in the building
It's dude.
with my newborn son trying to figure out how to breastfeed,
Yeah.
fresh out of a traumatizing C-section, and just having the world turn on you. That was a really dark time.
Yeah.
We
And
don't
you
talk
lose-
about it very often.
Did you lose a little faith in humanity right there, right?
Yeah.
And
Till
it's
this day.
It's still hard to get back. So, regardless of your belief, but like there's a little callous that, our maker puts on us for that reason. It's like, hey, like I got you marked. Got you marked for something else. There's going to be some shit that happens, but this is marking you for something else.
Yeah. And that was what sealed a lot of those decisions of cutting people out of our circle.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of that came from people who we thought were really close to us, and then the people who knew the truth never
Not
stood
standing up.
online for us,
wow.
Wow.
and they were still considered friends. They would still call them, be like, "Hey, you want to go hang out?" But they never stood up online.
Just watching from the sidelines, right?
Yeah, just never. Like a lie was that, just to be exact, the lie was Chris never came to my assistance when a vehicle was wrecked.
Mm.
Okay. We wrecked one vehicle in our 17 years of business. Chris never came to my assistance and told me where it was. I had to find out from this, and this, and this. Okay. The truth is, we walked into a surprise baby shower, a diaper shower, that one of our friends was. This person wasn't there, but we were all friends, right? He just had something else going on that time. So one of my coworkers had wrecked a car that we got permission to drive around from that friend, and so we walked into this baby shower. Not but 5 minutes in, I get a phone call. Dude, I just wrecked a car. Okay, where are you? What's going on? I just walked into this baby shower. Let me go back in here and tell Marlene that I gotta run. So we left. So I left. I left her there. I left, called him, handled the situation, got there with the car, stayed there all the way through till he met me, all that. The friends that knew that I left to go attend to that, this customer was online saying that I left him high and dry. And the friends that were there, 6 people in the car world, never stepped in and said, "You are lying," because he left the baby shower
that we threw.
So all the people there,
never stood up,
Wow.
never said anything.
and they just watched it on social
They
media.
watched it burn. They
Wow.
watched the whole thing go down. They
Get-
never stood up.
You didn't get them a good gift, did you?
No. Nothing.
Sorry.
Like, that was
And so this, and then, so this, it was essentially an ABS system that failed on the vehicle. So nothing that we had done, it would have failed on the customer. It would have failed with us. So it was right after Thanksgiving. So, it was one of those things where it's the holidays. Insurance companies are moving a lot slower. And
because our shop is fully insured.
Sure.
Like,
so
Sure.
and actually, so this person, the owner of the vehicle, it went to the body shop that he manages the website for. So it's at, like, you are a contractor for this individual. He is handling the insurance claim with our insurance.
Yeah.
There is no shady business here. It just requires your patience during the holiday season. So it was
insurance,
Thanksgiving.
man.
Yeah.
He didn't have it insured for the value at that time with all the added upgrades. And so it was this back and forth between insurance company, what they wanted to pay, proving the upgrades, asking for more. So, and then Christmas came along. And so it was a slow process.
Like, you
with the
should be
holidays.
doing this on your Christmas break, right?
So
Well, and asking everybody else to work.
I went into labor 2 days after Christmas. So our son was born on the 27th
So
of
that's
December.
when it started getting heated. Like,
And
oh,
so
they're hiding.
I
Yeah,
am
exactly.
in labor. I'm in labor, and he's on his
11
phone.
Because you don't live your life online, right?
yeah. She was 11 hours in labor, started at 2 or 3 in the morning.
I started right around midnight, and I didn't tell you until about 4 in the morning.
Yeah. She's like,
We gotta go.
Gotta go.
Yeah.
And so I think entrepreneurship is glamorized, and it's like, oh, you get to make your own schedule. But as a wife, I don't think people realize how much I've actually sacrificed
Oh, dude. Yeah.
for our place at the table.
Yeah. No. And it's not just what you've already sacrificed, but what you're willing to continue to
Because I'm in
sacrifice.
labor, he's trying to do damage control with this guy.
this guy went online and said that I'm ghosting him and all this other stuff.
And Chris is like, and it's like these special moments at times get taken away by irrational people.
That's true.
And so moments like that have made me a very guarded person, to where I'm always in that fight and flight mode.
Right.
And I'm always like screenshot, like my phone screenshots. I could write a book. Like, I have screenshots on everybody because I feel like I have to cover my ass all the
You do.
time.
No, it's CYA. We have that policy in our family, and we also have that policy in all of our businesses is CYA.
Yeah.
We deal
So-
we deal with the same stuff.
I had a C-section, and this person went online, made, one post. It blew up. I had people from California, people from New York messaging, threatening, and I'm sitting in an office,
He said we wouldn't take care of it. He'd take care of the car.
sitting in an office with my newborn son, trying to figure out how to breastfeed. We're new parents, trying to navigate sleepless nights, bullshit lies. That was a very dark period for us in our marriage, actually.
Yeah. So the achievement part, or the best part was coming out of it stronger
Oh, dude.
and knowing how
Because
to.
that could have broke us.
Yeah.
Oh,
knowing,
no, most people will break. Let's clarify. Most
Yeah.
people at that point are like, fuck this, I'm done.
Yeah. So he had insurance that valued the car at one value.
Mm.
Our insurance valued it more.
Mm.
So usually they kind of battle it out between insurance companies and what they're going to pay, right?
Sure.
And so our insurance said, here's all this amount. We're going to pay you X amount of dollars.
Mm.
And in the background, I'm telling my insurance, well, I want to cut him a check for more to help eat that cost.
Sure.
Okay. And our insurance says, if you do that, we're walking out.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you cut him an additional check outside of this, we are not going to pay. You can pay it all on your own. I said, okay. So I kept it quiet. I had to keep that part quiet. And so insurance cut him the check for the car, gave him a little more than what he had valued for it. It's a Scat Pack. At that time, it was $28K.
Right.
Right? They're not going to give you anything for. So it's a 2016. So then, after all that was done and all the paperwork came through, I had an additional check for him, but he had already gone online and said all these things. And I'm like, dude, I can't. If I would have told you that I'm going to cut you this additional check and you spill the beans, now I'm caught with 30 extra grand that I'm going to have to pay for that. I said, so if you would have just waited and just talked to me
Chill.
and given me the time that I needed, like things would have been fine, dandy, and perfect. His car got paid off. He rebuilt it, got it all done. Like,
Got
I
an
was willing to do
Audi.
everything for him and help him out. And you take the check, you take the cash. We'll come back and we'll build it here on my dime.
Seems
All
simple.
this other stuff, right? Pretty easy. And we're back out and racing. No,
Which it wasn't even, like, it was just some front end damage. It wasn't anything too serious. But that initial post that he made was shared over 1,000 times. Then he claimed to make a apology post and Bailey's made it right. Well, that one only got shared like 10 times.
Right. Well, that's the rule, right?
So that was a really dark time. And I think one of our greatest accomplishments as a couple, as a business and everything was coming through that fire.
Different people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just realizing that we can do
Stronger,
anything together.
Like together. Like you only understand each other.
Yep.
And
There's nothing anybody can take away. And I think it makes it an unstoppable force, right?
Yep. We had that little saying in our bedroom, right up against the wall. It says, us against the world.
Yeah.
It's so freaking lonely.
Yeah.
Man.
That's true, right? Us against the world.
Yep.
That's true.
And so we put our little pictures up there and everything. So
Yeah. All of our trips.
What are the futures the future that you guys have? What's the plan, the goal? What are you guys gonna do?
I mean, I think we live in like a 3-5 year plan life, and we kind of have the wanting our businesses to get to a certain point and then continuing to grow past those, and we don't really know, or at least I don't really know what's past that. I live a lot in the moment.
she does.
Like I'm not we go, okay, here's the plan. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to continue walking day by day in the moment, and that's where I find my joy is just I'm not going to sit here and like really concern myself what tomorrow is. I'm going to live today, and whatever comes tomorrow, we'll handle it then.
Very much so,
the
like
safe
that.
place, right? So I mean, if I think about accomplishments, I think I do a lot of like vision work for our family. Is to stand up really good businesses that we can back out of, and other people can have a really cool place to work, give them equity, that are going to pay us later on down the road. Find ways to make cool places and good businesses work for people that are in them. So the philosophy, and I think what we've kind of proved over and over again, is like, what can we do to start this? Because really, once you start to hire the people, you start to shape it, and then who's going to be the important players later on, and then it becomes less about us, and then it becomes more about that entity and those people that work there.
Yeah.
So having those, and I think the long term is moving out of, you know, a giant house into back into a small house somewhere in the middle of 50 acres, just you and me, and you know, having a house out there where the boys can come with their wives, whatever is kind of the big goal. I don't think we'll ever stop working.
So what are the core values you instill with those kids?
Respect.
Yep. Respect. Be kind to others.
Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big one nowadays, is like being able to see through the crap, you know, and just you gotta love people regardless.
And making their own decisions and just kind of teaching them how to look at what's going on in the world and make their own decisions of what they want to do. And don't be, you know, it's the age old classic of, you know, if your friends jump off a cliff, are you going to?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you have to make your own decisions and you have to figure out what the right decision is. And so teaching them what those, like how to make those decisions. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to necessarily listen to what we say.
Yeah, there's somebody else's husbands and you know, things like that. What about you guys? What's
So I'm very much so like Andrea, where I'm like very much so like in the moment. Like you tell me what you think we need to do, how we need to navigate and move and pivot, and I'm here to help you, support you.
dang.
But I'm very much so as well, just in the moment, trying to enjoy where we are right now. But ultimately, same, you know, want to be out in the middle of nowhere, build a compound where, you know, we have a house for each of our children, and just set them for life, you know,
Yeah.
like teach them hard work, respect as well, but also give them a better life than we had.
Yeah.
I do a lot of that 4 or 5 year planning, right? So I have a goal that I kind of set out. And there's a funny story that a letter that my mom gave me one time at Christmas. She held on to a lot of these keepsakes, right? These things that I did in school, whatnot. I had wrote a letter about what my future looked like when I was a kid in fourth, fifth grade. And that I wanted to live in Hawaii with a minivan and a wife with 2 kids.
That's your yeah.
So long forgot about that letter, right? So subconsciously, here I am. We own a van in Hawaii with a wife and 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like crazy how that is transpired because I completely forgot that I even wrote that down as a kid for a school project.
Was it even your idea?
I don't know. Right? It was crazy. Like it was as a fourth grader. What is it that I'm have a vision to just have a van in Hawaii? It's so weird, right? So I'm I try to stay ahead with like where can we hit this 5 year goal? Here's this. What are the roads? What are the decisions we need to make? Go from there. She rides along and supports it. And then it's like, all right, cool. So the other, a perfect example is buying the land, right?
Big step.
I told her, I'm like, man, I've been doing this for a long time and I feel like I don't own anything. I don't have anything to show for it. I rent, and I rent, right? And I don't have anything. So there's nothing that I've worked for that says that I've done this. And she's like,
And being an entrepreneur, you always hear it's incredibly hard for you to get approved for you to own anything. So you
tough.
kind of always have that mindset. So
It's tough.
we talked about, okay, we're coming up on this much time. It's time for us to find our own land. It's time for us to build our own building. And we were at Disney World with the kids one day, and I'm just scrolling, and I'm like, hey, when we get back, we need to go look at this right here.
and it stayed. It stayed there. Nobody touched the land. Nobody looked at the land. Nothing. Stayed all the way through that trip. And she's helped facilitate that whole thing. Like I could not have the success, the business, the land, any of that stuff without her. Because she worked Like I would have the visions, and she would work on what we needed to get there on the back end. Okay, well.
And we actually couldn't have gotten the land without your guys' advice because you guys told us about.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the capital fund
So
credit
thank you
and
for
then
that.
refer
Yeah.
it over.
So perfect of like-minded bouncing things off,
Right.
right?
Right.
Of people who have been
We were
down
just
that
doing
same
that.
road.
We were in
The
contract
same-
at that point.
Yeah,
Same
we were.
success story.
Yeah, thankfully
You know?
we got out of that contract.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we did not move forward with that.
Yeah, it was for
project.
y'all, not for us.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know,
It's kind of crazy.
we
works.
had no idea about that. So as soon as we get back, she nails that thing down, and the land is bought.
Yeah.
Like fast.
Yeah.
So a lot of the good accomplishments, and I think our future now is that I have for the families to kind of add on and build and give something for the kids to make the decision of what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm a mechanic. We don't need another mechanic in the family, right? So I want them to, if you do this path of going down cars, great, but I want them to find their own path.
Yep.
But something to always, they'll always have something to come home to.
Like it.
Yeah.
And whether we pass, like the trust, and all this stuff goes away, they have some kind of financial something that can go to them to help their dreams.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So Marlene, what would one piece of advice you would give to maybe another wife or partner out there, that's sticking through the good fight, losing the battles, coming through stronger, and they just want to quit? What would be your one piece of advice?
I would say don't let outside voices influence your thoughts.
How do you do that?
You find, for me, my parents, they're a great support system. My mother, love her.
Yeah.
And I aspire to be like her. And sorry, it's get emotional because I almost lost her last year.
Wow.
But I always just want to be a wife like her. She's a great wife, a great mother. She puts everybody first.
Yeah.
So she's the first to tell me you're fucking up. Like, like you need to go talk to your husband. But just, having a good support system, whether it's counseling, your parents, and relying on that support system to tell you that, just allowing people to tell you like, hey, you're in the wrong, and not having enablers around you that are like, yeah, your husband's a bad person. So I think that's the best advice I could give somebody is just find your core people that are able to tell you when you're wrong and rely on them, whether it's counseling or your immediate family, and don't let outside voices influence you to leave. Because I always like to say, we never stop learning each other. Like I'm not the same person I was a year ago. He's not the same person he was yesterday. So you have to relearn each other in all these new phases, in all these new stages of life, and you relearn and adapt.
Right.
And you can't just drop the towel and be like, all right, I'm done.
Dude, that's so heavy.
I second that. Like I think whenever our last round of counseling that we went through, it was like we were on the cusp of our kids being teenagers. And we've never parented through that. And we don't know
jack shit about
we don't know anything about that. And we were like, we need somebody that's been through it and knows. So for me and for what we're always looking for somebody that's like, all right, but who's already done this before? And let's go and talk and reach out to those people that have done the thing that we are about to go do. Because then, we actually can glean some things, and then they'll have obvious pointers of like, okay, but don't do this. We did this. Didn't work out great.
Probably do it anyways.
Yeah, we'll do it anyway because we're hard-headed. But at least to be able to go, yeah, all right, that ended the way that we knew it was going to end. So
yeah, that's good. But that comes back to the core foundation.
Yeah.
Like this has to be rock solid.
Mm-hmm.
Has to.
Communicate.
She's got my back. I got her back.
Yeah.
Us versus the world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And own it.
Yep. Own it every day. And it's waking up with that battle. Just people you're gonna acquire haters. They're gonna come and go.
Yep.
We've all seen them online. You're gonna acquire, folks that are sheep's and wolves clothing, or wolves and sheep's clothing.
Yep.
And you can't be surprised. It comes down to what, number 5 on the list out of the 6 things. Humans are the wild card in every situation.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's real easy to be haters online. It's real hard to be haters in person.
It really is.
Hey, let's have this conversation.
Yeah.
Face
it's a
to
good
face.
note to end on.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna hate on somebody, make sure you pull them aside and hate them right front.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Old
Yeah.
fashioned way.
That's
Little
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like let's talk and let's have a hard conversation.
Yeah.
Because
Most
there's
of the time you'll come out of it being like.
And I
okay,
never
everybody
shy away.
had a
I
mutual
never shy
understanding.
away from
Never
the hard
shy?
conversations.
Why?
I have, I have more respect for the customers that come to me and say, "Hey, I've heard this. I've seen this.
Yeah.
Can you please elaborate and let me know
and let's
what
talk
that
about it.
situation was? Because I really want to do work with you guys, but I feel like there's more to the story." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, I would love to, to talk to you about it
Those
Awesome.
are cool. And that happens in everything,
in every aspect
all
of life."
aspects of life.
Yeah.
So it's good. What are some things? Because he seems like the wild one that just flies off the handle with his decisions. Hang on, how did he tell you that we were doing podcasts? I want to know that.
Yeah, I think he just like randomly was like, "Hey, we're gonna start doing a podcast," and I was like, "All right, cool." I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm like, "Yeah, sounds good."
She does a
Love
little
it.
podcast.
Yeah.
How many decisions?
Now
are
I'm
like
waiting for the day that he comes to me and he's like, "All right, we're gonna do YouTube, and we're gonna become YouTubers," and I'm gonna be like,
That's what she wants to do. Yeah, obviously.
like that was something that I wanted to do a long time ago. I just
You should,
I get
especially with the farm and the
well,
animals.
but
and-
in what time?
I
That's
know.
it's the time economics.
And we
of
don't like to
going-
live our lives online.
yeah, I'm the same
Yeah.
way. I'm very private about our
So
children.
like he's really good at structuring and getting calendars together and like putting things on a calendar so that it flows.
Yeah.
That is not my strong suit. So I rely heavily on him to do that. And so like that would be the next thing that I would say. I'd like him to say, "Hey, let's do YouTube," or let's and then I'm sure it's going to be a "Hey Tori,
that
come
would
on
be
down."
good, episode 3 is you guys may not have time to do it.
Yeah, how do you
But
structure that time?
Episode 3 could be an introduction to the person that makes it all happen for us.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh.
Because
I think she has an
Yeah.
interesting story as
I
well.
think there's
Yeah.
something there.
Tori can come on and tell us and school all of us and how to make a successful YouTube, because I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I can figure out ways to make money, but put me behind a computer with videos and all voices and stuff like that. No. I would be one of those old, if I was to do what Tori did, I would be one of those.
This thing on?
Yeah. No,
Hello?
Plug it in.
Chinese playover movies where it was all in Chinese.
Oh, and then the
Yeah.
mouth starts talking
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
Subtitles.
Yeah.
Sub-
He's gonna fight you.
100%,
And the
yeah.
voices keep going, but it's like just he's gonna fight you.
Chris Bailey's mad dubbing skills.
Yeah. He's gonna dub over. Yeah. I will meet you again at the starting line.
Hello? How do we know if we're recording?
And it's like, yeah, your editing skills are way off. So Tori steps up and makes it all happen.
Yeah.
We don't look like old Asian films.
I
You know.
I think
Well-
that's a great intro. Is the podcast is about, obviously what we're doing as families and how this started, and we're trying to open the door a little bit more, trying to make people realize, look, at the end of the day, we're human beings. We just chose a different path, and some of you may have the same path. The idea of this podcast is to bring like minds together, because I'll be honest, we would not have known the Baileys if we hadn't bought a Hellcat and we decided to race it or take it to a shop that really screwed it up, and then take it to you guys. and then being able to hang out, because guess what, dude? Like, we don't live our lives online, right? So we wouldn't have met that way. We're when we're with each other, we're like with each other.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that we were able to like hang out with you a little bit in Vegas.
Oh, it was such a wild day.
Right. And it was cool.
Busy.
Yeah.
And then, come back and do, podcasts where we're opening up the door. And I think that's also one of the big keys about both of us is being able to open that door and speak about our lives and not hold anything back.
Yeah.
We want the next generation to be successful and know that they're not alone.
Not alone.
Yeah.
The stuff that they're going through is the same in any field, any industry. It doesn't have to be on the land stuff. It doesn't have to be on the car stuff. Any field, any industry, you're going to go through it. And it starts with the core foundation of what's at home.
Yep.
If you can't go home and reset, you're going to lose the battle. And it's going to show its face in everything you do.
Every single thing you do. I like that.
Yeah.
If
You
you're
gotta-
panicking and
yeah.
struggling at home, you're panicking and struggling in the shop and all this because the mind isn't calm.
Nope, it sure doesn't. And
So-
that's a really good piece to leave with.
Yeah. So that's it. Episode 2. I think episode 3 we may get Tori on board, and I don't know, maybe we'll introduce the director that makes it all happen.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, man. The list is actually growing, and so we definitely want to get Tori on early because the difference in what we do and how this thing looks now and what it's going to look like in the future. We have some cool, some cool things coming up that we'll discuss as we start to put out some more episodes. But the people are really starting to line up now, and I think that's what's exciting.
Some key players. We've had a lot of people reach out that want to tell their stories. And we're super excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some key people in multiple industries, not just the automotive industry, but the one thing that we all have in common is we love cars, we love to go fast, and we don't own Teslas.
I do have an electric car though.
You
Mm.
edit that.
Wait, what
it's
do
my
you
daily
have?
commuter. It's a VW ID4.
Oh, an ID4?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They're not
It's
bad.
my daily. I drive an hour to work every day. I'm not
I mean-
paying
That makes
gas.
So,
I feel like I'm like exploring,
Yeah.
because I have a plug-in hybrid, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
so we have one electric. That's
Sorry.
not a Tesla, though.
Sorry, it's
So
not.
that's fine. We've got one electric, but we're super excited, and we hope that you guys enjoy the podcast. And if you have any persons or any people that you want on recommended, please go on to our Facebook, our Instagram, any of our social medias, and the website. Share the names. We will send you a link, and Tori will reach out to you with some questionnaires and things like that to be able to get you on the podcast so you guys can share your stories of your businesses, your successes, and maybe some accolades in the car world or anything that you've done. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you on episode 3.
Bye.
Out.